Either they didn't want to explain it to you or they made you feel dumb for not knowing. And I hated that. I absolutely hated that. And what transitioned me, what made me a teacher of technology and a embracer of it, is I wanted a job, and I asked the guy that was at my job, I says, how do you do this? And he's like, don't ask me, go get the book.
Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Sharika. My name is Sharika Sebi, and I am the host of this show. I am a life coach, author, mentor, speaker, and a TV show host. Yeah, I host a TV show now. Okay, so today's guest is the amazing Dr. Elwanda Bennett. She calls herself God's tech mama. So she's going to tell us all about that. But this lady has many letters behind her name, which I'm going to also ask her to tell us about. She's an expert in adult learning. She's a technologist, and she has over 30 years of consulting with some top Fortune 500 companies. So please help me welcome Dr. Elwanda Bennett to this afternoon show. Dr. Bennett, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you, Sharika. I'm most excited about spending time with you. I have had the pleasure of being in your company for the last few months. We did a project together, as you know, back in April.
Right.
And that was so amazing. And I'm so glad you came and brought your information, your knowledge, your genius to our zone. And your contribution there just got me really thrilled. And again, I want to thank you for being a part of that, because it really made a difference to the women attending that conference. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. That was a pleasure, and I'm grateful to you for inviting me. I take pleasure in any opportunity that I get to share the message that I have. It's always an honor. So thank you too for letting me share your stage. So my first question is, please tell myself and the people that are listening to us what your name, at the end of your name, you have some letters, MEDP and PMP. What are those for?
The MEDP is for the Masters in Economic Development Philanthropy. I have a master's degree in grant writing for philanthropic causes and nonprofits.
Oh, okay.
My THD, my theology doctorate, is in God's work in theology. Then I have a PhD in leadership development. That is what my PhD is in. And the PMP is the project management professional. And that's what that PMP stands for. And the interesting thing about PMP is that I joined Project Management Institute, the Global, back in 2001. And I just waited until 2020, and I sat and got my PMP in 2020. I did it during the pandemic, and I was able to get out of that successfully. So I'm a baby PMP, and I love it.
Okay, cool. Sounds great. All right. So now we know what your qualifications are. Tell us a little bit about yourself prior to becoming an adult. Where were you born, grown? What made Dr. Bennett?
I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, in a place called 7th Ward. And that is a very interesting place in time and space, because by the time I grew up as a teenager and a young child, it turned out to be the murder capital of the world. Around the time that I was growing up, I became pregnant at 17. I dropped out of school, and then I went back and got my GED. And that's your general equivalency diploma for high school. So I tested out of high school, immediately went on to college, but I couldn't stay because I had the baby. And I didn't want to not be good to her. So I decided to work. And I have a natural gift for computers. That is where my strength is. I have a natural knack for technology. Not only understanding it, but also explaining it to others. So I turned that into my life's work. I built my own company, and I just began contracting and working here around the United States and abroad, teaching computers to any number of people.
Oh, wow.
So that's where my strength is, and that's why I call myself God's tech mama. Because if your tech hurt you, I'm your mama. I'm gonna look out for you. I'm gonna help you get your tech together, and then you're gonna feel good about yourself. That's my
Okay.
whole thing.
Okay, cool. That sounds amazing. Um, how old is your daughter now? Your first daughter?
She's going to be 33 this year, I think.
Okay, that means you've been in technology for 30 years, 30 plus
Yes,
years?
from 1988. My first job was at a company called IBM. And I
Mm.
was at IBM. I was there as a clerk stenographer. It was my very first job. I was still in high school, and that's what I did that summer before I got pregnant with Lulu.
Mhm.
And then after that, I just continued to work in technology, taking different contract positions and moving myself up in the ranks.
Right,
So
right.
how I did it, I just found that at work, they made it psychologically unsafe to have a question about technology. Either they didn't want to explain it to you, or they made you feel dumb for not knowing. And I hated that. I absolutely hated that. And what transitioned me, what made me a teacher of technology and a embracer of it, is I wanted a job, and I asked the guy that was at my job. I says, "How do you do this?" And
Mhm.
he's like, "Don't ask me. Go get the book."
Oh, really?
The book was $50. I saved my money and got that book. Got the $50. Got the book.
Mhm.
Learned all that was in the book. Okay,
Mhm.
got myself. And the next job, I was over him. I want
Yeah.
experiences like that for other people, where I come alongside them and grow them to such a point that they elevate, that they level up in whatever they're doing.
That's beautiful. I love that. I love that. So now you're God's tech mama.
I am.
God's tech mama. I love that. So you have a specialty in computing, or you do all things computer? Do you do programs as well?
You know, because technology is ever evolving, I
Mhm.
came up with these words to describe it. Technolosity is the speed at which we embrace technology, at the speed at which it comes at us, the
Mhm.
velocity of the speed of technology coming at
Mm.
us.
Right.
And then I have edulosity, which is the speed at which we learn. Very different, these things.
Mhm.
So my specialty in computers is something called ERP, Enterprise Requirements Planning. It has to do with materials, factories, work efforts, things around that. And I am a
Mhm.
specialist in ERP technology. That's my number
Right.
one specialty.
Okay.
The second thing I do is anything that's a desktop application. I love apps.
Mm.
So any kind of app. Like when you were working with me today to bring me on and you were showing me various things, I was geeked because I'm like, ooh, I love it. I was
Okay.
geeked. I was like, ooh, it does that too. Oh, I love it.
No. Okay. I that sounds like you've been on an amazing journey though. But you specialize in adult learning. Is that you teach them technology as well?
Technology, business, leadership, teams,
Mhm.
and in that learning, in that teaching, there's a lot of learning.
Right.
And so I'm a lifelong learner. I'll be learning till I leave. And one of the things that I've learned is that our leadership and those that are in charge lack something very important.
Mhm.
And people think it's communication, but that's not it. It's emotional intelligence.
Mm. I love that.
hmm Not a lot of people teach it or talk about it, but I do.
Mhm.
And it's a way to gain and give trust, and it's a way to approach humanity.
Right.
I think the lack of emotional intelligence is causing a great resignation. People are just fed up. They feel mistreated and handled and disrespected
Agree.
daily.
Mhm.
And actually, I keep myself low to the ground, meaning focused with everyone else, because I want to feel those interactions.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people being mishandled and mistreated at work. I call it abused. Not abused, but abused, meaning they be using you.
Yeah.
Abused. So I see people get abused all the time, and I'm like, okay, why is that? And how can I be a different person? How can I bring good energy to the space for that person to grow?
Mm-hmm.
And how can I embrace them where they are in their journey and still allow them to have their humanity and dignity?
Right.
That's very important to me.
I love that. Emotional intelligence. I'm a part of this program where we are teaching people. Well, I teach the mindset aspect, but the program is about mindset and social media and how the two work together, right? So I teach the mindset aspect, and emotional intelligence is actually a part of what we teach in the program. Tell us about, if you were to break down the concept of emotional intelligence to include the trust factor, how would you describe it?
When I talk about emotional intelligence, I always put it in the framework of we have the platinum rule, which is treat others better than you want to be treated. At
Mm.
first, we have do unto others, which is the golden rule. Do us to
Mm-hmm.
others as you would have them do unto you. You've heard that a lot. The
Right.
platinum rule is to treat people better than people treat you. You have to do
Yeah.
something else. The golden rule is fine, but we know this world is not fair, and there's no
Mm-hmm.
real quid pro quo equality necessarily.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you have to make an intentional decision, and that emotional intelligence tells you when to apply that rule. It tells you when I'm going to treat this person better than they're treating me right now in this moment. They're being ugly. They are being unkind. They're being uncivilized. They are pressurizing me or attempting to make demands. So then you have to decide from there, how am I going to manage that? Am I going to allow them to control my emotions or to trigger me or to make me upset? Or am I going to realize the truth? They can't eat me alive. What am I worried about?
Yeah.
They're human just like me. We all get thirsty. We all need to eat. We all have the very same needs. We are here together because we want to work together to elevate our families. That's what we're here for. That's what's at the core of us.
Right.
So if you talk to a person like I recognize the humanity in you, I know you're having a very human experience right now, and I'm going to work on trusting you. You can even say, look, as an emotional intelligent person, I don't trust you. You can say that to someone. Someone has even said it to me. They said, I don't trust you. I don't believe you. You don't keep your promises. And I said, okay, I hear you. I didn't internalize it because I'm like, okay, I make mistakes. I'm human too.
Mm-hmm.
But are you going to grant me grace in this moment? Or are you going to be unkind? It's a choice.
Yeah.
So that's where the emotional intelligence comes in.
In when I was a part of the enclave back in April, when I was a part of that, you spoke extensively about trust. It would be great if you could share that with us, in the concept of trust. How do we learn to trust each other? How do we build a foundation of trust?
On the trust, first of all, trust, just the whole exercise of trust is really not biblical. It says trust no one but God. Okay? It says that. It says
Right.
don't trust anybody. And
Yeah.
it's right, it's true. But without trust, we wouldn't be able to have any currency. Trust is currency. It's
Mm-hmm.
money. If I trust you, I'll do business with you. If I
Right.
don't trust you, I will not.
True.
And as we're growing up, our parents are training us to become trustworthy because once we earn the trust of someone else, we're able to function. If you're constantly in an environment of distrust, then things happen, negative things happen. Um, I'm big in the trust yet verify, trust yet communicate. And there's
Mm-hmm.
5 ways of trust, 5 ways of trust. The first one is trust yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the next one is to start working to trust those that lead you. Very difficult. Very difficult to trust someone leading you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the outward trust with people, your peer group, and those around you in your environment. The next level is the organizational trust. So if you're inside of an organization like I do, I belong to the Prometheus group. I am a vice president of professional development at PMI Houston. I'm also a taxpayer in the United States. I have many different organizations. I also work at church. So there's a level of trust with the organizations that we live in. That's the third level. The fourth level of trust is the market. The market. The market is crazy right now. So many up and down. I'm sure you've heard of it on the news.
Yeah.
Part of the market is deciding, like, from am I getting vaccinated to am I going to truly travel right now? Is it safe to really travel? Am I going to save more money because I think it's a recession? How am I going to deal with my fuel costs now that inflation is up? I didn't know it was coming. I had no idea. So that's that market trust. And it's sometimes flimsy. I'll give you an example. Apple is a company, they manufacture computers, but they also make phones. And they also make music devices. And they also make desktop sets. We had to first trust that their product would be of a quality that was good. So they really focused initially on making really good and cool computers that people wanted. Then they started making phones and music players that people wanted. Why is that not true for Dell? We don't trust Dell. Why is that not true for HP? We don't trust them neither. Lenovo, let them come out with a phone and see how it goes. Not their zone of genius, not their area of success. So as a market, we don't trust them to make this other thing. We just don't trust them.
Yeah.
So it's based on the trust for their original product that they sold that they were able to break into other markets. People began to trust it because when they got it, they stood by their product and they also looked for ways to make the customer happy with what they purchased. A little bit different than the rest.
Yeah.
So because they were different and they were deemed trustworthy, they now exist in markets that were never even there before for them. The last level of trust is societal. That's the fifth wave of trust. And because of the recent shootings and the violence that we've seen, wars going on, pandemic, we don't trust society anymore.
Yeah.
So those are the 5 waves of trust. And each of them is broken.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but that's what's going on.
Yeah.
To learn more about this trust waves, you could read a book that I did by Stephen Covey. He's the guy that wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Right.
He also wrote the book Speed of Trust. And in that book, he talks about 13 trust behaviors, things that make you more trustworthy. And that is a good book to read. That's helpful.
Super. I'll have to look into that. Things to make you trustworthy. Okay. We're here today to talk about saying no to the pressure. And I know you have been on quite the journey coming from I am over 30 years experience working with Fortune 500 companies. I can just imagine there are many hurdles that you had to overcome. Many times you probably had to say no or to put your foot down, or you had to go back and think it over or stuff like that. So what are some of the experiences that you've had that has helped you to build your character? And when are some of the times that you had to say, okay, enough is enough. I am not doing this. This is not what I want. This is not my way. This goes against my personality. This goes against my beliefs. This goes against my character.
I'm so glad that you phrased it that way. It happened to me. I went from GED to PhD. Very difficult. It took me a long time. It took me a long time to finish school, to go through school. After I accomplished my doctorate, the work that I was at told me that I could not use my title and that I would not be spoken to with my title, which is Dr. Elwanda Bennett. They didn't want to call. They were like, no, you just Elwanda. That's all you ever going to be is Elwanda. And my ego had a problem with that. First of all, I invested time, energy, effort, and money in this.
Yeah.
I put a slow sweat equity into it. It wasn't an easy thing. I just
Mm-hmm.
kept going to school, going on the weekends, going at night, still holding down my jobs, running my companies, and they would not honor me at my job. And I said, you know what? I need a new job. I need to go somewhere else because they
Yeah.
don't respect me here. They say it, but they don't. And instead of me getting all butthurt about it, I got a good coach, and he coached me to my next level so that my money doubled in my next position.
Mm-hmm.
And when I left very peaceably, but I made a decision to leave and then I acted on that. And I put a plan in place to be able to leave. And that's what I did. So that putting that plan in place, when I left my job, I went to another. And I'm very intentional in these jobs that I'm choosing because I'm working to double on my money because I'm bootstrapping myself. I pay for my companies. So I'm like,
Right.
since I'm doing it out of my own pocket, I need to increase the size of my pockets. So I got a coach, and he knows where I'm headed. I've talked to him about
Yeah.
my vision. And
Mm-hmm.
because he was aligned in effort with me, I was able to leapfrog or get another lily pad, if you will, jump next door to this particular position. And I will hold this position until I get to a specific goal, and then I'll hop to the next thing. That's my intention. And I told them that when I was being interviewed.
Right.
And I basically asked for the money I wanted, and they agreed to it.
Where do you get the confidence from to know that you can do this without thinking that, oh, this is not going to be possible, like so many of us do?
I've been rejected a lot. That's where I get my confidence from. From the
Mm.
time that I got my GED to the time I got my first degree, I applied for positions and was rejected routinely because I didn't have a degree until I was maybe 36 years old. Then at 36, I decided to go back to school to get my bachelor's. My bachelor's degree is in Christian counseling. Had nothing to do with IT. But every degree that I went for was one that I wanted to do that was more close to who I was, more so than my natural technical talent. So first degree I got, that made me happy. Then I waited a while and worked on my master's and got that one. Same thing with these PhD, THD activities. Just kept going slowly. I believe in intentional, incremental, iterative progress. So it'll be intentional because it'll be my choice. It'll be incremental because it'll happen in little bitty baby steps and stages. It's not going to happen overnight. Didn't PhD overnight. Don't even think that. My mind
Yeah.
is weary now from the next thing I'm going to have to think of. I'm like, oh
Mm-hmm.
Lord, I don't want to read no more. I'm going to throw up. You know, so much reading involved in writing and doing this. So I
Right.
kept thinking, I says, oh, if I just do a little, and that's how I do myself. I said, I could just do a little. And cumulatively, it'll add up to a lot.
Yeah.
And then iterative. I'll go forward and maybe I'll fail. Or I'll go forward and I'll get frustrated and think I'm going to quit. And that sort of thing. I mean, it took several stops and starts to accomplish it, which is why I was probably butthurt when they wouldn't address me properly. Because I was like, no, man, I did this. Why wouldn't you? Do me the courtesy. So my confidence comes through rejection, ongoing homework, and homework and hard work, and a realization that I'm doing my dead level best. And I know if I bring my best, no way I can lose if I'm bringing my best.
I love that. I really do love that. What are some of working in the areas that you work? Have you ever experienced prejudice or colorism or classism or stuff like that?
Yes. I could tell you two instances when it happened. I I've been an adjunct professor for colleges before I got my degrees. I was actually teaching at college level,
Mm-hmm.
technology courses. And I'd done a few of them at Houston Community College and also the University of Houston. And I was at Houston Community College, and we were waiting for someone to come with the key to the classroom to let us in. And they were reading the course materials that had been sent. And there were two guys sitting over there, and the guy says, "What does somebody named Elwanda know? What is that? What is Elwanda? What is that?"
Just from the name.
Yeah, just from my name. And it was like, ugh, I don't know. This class, I don't know. So we get in class, and everybody sits down, and then it dawns on them that I'm the teacher.
Oh
I
my
thought I was
God.
attending just like they were. And I started the class, and I says, "Hi there, good morning, everyone. Let me tell you what I wanted to know." How about that? And we had a fantastic time. They learned and grew from it. We became great friends. But yes, that happened right before
Oh my
class.
God.
I didn't
You
say a
heard
mumbling
him
word. I
say
just was like,
it? You heard him say it? You heard him
yes,
say it?
yes.
Wow.
So that's why I started off that way. I said, let me share this with you. There's something that I want to know. You would like this thing. I will give it to you. So that's that one. And the other time I encountered discrimination or outright racism, I was working in the Silicon Valley. I had a number of different projects I was working on, and I was looking for my next project. I was sending out my resume, but I wasn't getting any callbacks. It says Elwanda M. Bennett. No one would call me. And I kept saying, what is wrong? So then I changed my resume and put E.M. Bennett. No Elwanda, just E.M. Bennett. And the calls started rolling in. They started contacting me. They started reaching out to me. And that was the only way I could secure a position in the Silicon Valley when that was occurring. They would not do it just based on my name. Because they kind of feel like, oh, she black, so therefore she may not know. And that's the assumption made a lot of times. When I go somewhere, they always assume I don't know. And I'm just very quiet. I don't say a thing.
I can imagine the feeling of when they realize that you do know how exhilarating that must be.
I just wait, and I'm humble.
Uh-huh.
I let them talk to me, and they be explaining and going on. I do not interrupt. I listen. And that's important. You have to seek
Yeah,
to understand them to be understood. So you have to
right.
understand. So I let them lay it all out, shoot they shot, let them be a talkaholic, let them have the floor. Then when the time comes, I do the needful.
Amazing. Does your name have a particular meaning? Does it mean something?
It's a form of Gwendolyn. It's like the wanderer. But I always tell people my name means she will fight a bear and the bear will be in trouble.
I love that. That's amazing. She'll fight a bear and the bear will be in trouble.
Correct.
Okay.
That's my belief.
Oh my God. What is the greatest one of the greatest lessons that you've learned since you've been on this journey?
I have learned that the choices that I made up until this point, good and bad, were worth it. And when I say worth it, when I would choose, I would always choose myself and my children, mostly my children. So I decided at an early age that if my kids can't go, I can't go. Parties, work, I always wanted to go when my kids were welcome because I very much enjoyed being in their company. So if I got an invite after work to go to some party, I'd be like, can I bring my kid, whom I call Nunu? Can I bring my Nunu? Yeah, I can bring my Nunu. Good, then we're good. So even as I began to go into other workplaces all around the United States, I'd be like, can I bring Madison? Which is my littlest one. There's 15 years between my girls.
Right.
And I was like, can I bring Madison with me? And they'd be like, oh yeah, she can come up. And I would. I worked in New Jersey, New York area for roughly 15 years on and off. I was a traveler. I had to travel every week. And some weeks I would have my mom bring her up there to me. And in the office, we had made a wall where we were measuring how she was growing, and we would just put a line. So as she grew up at the office. I had babysitters and everything there for her in New Jersey, but also they knew she was coming to the office. They knew she'd be at my lunch break. They knew we were going to measure her. She was always very much a part of my career. Both of my girls.
That's amazing. I love that. I imagine that must have been a privilege because that's not something that's available everywhere.
Yes, I was working as a contractor, and I explained to them how important it was that I keep that thing going on at home. My husband was taking care of my girls for me, and really my oldest daughter, she stepped up and did a lot of the taking care of my daughter. They both graduated the same year, the year that the new graduated from college. Madison graduated from kindergarten. So you can imagine, and she was getting up every morning, combing her hair, getting her dressed, cleaning her up, getting her ready for school every day. And she did that for me for years. And
Wow.
what amazed me about that is that she never complained. She never called talking smack. She was just like about it. She was really into her sister, and they're still very close. And I'm glad that God gave me good people to grow.
Yeah.
Yes, I really, really am very thrilled about those women that I have now that are mine. And my favorite thing now is that the oldest one, both of the girls cook, stellar cooks. I mean, they could burn. They could make amazing meals.
Right.
And my favorite thing to say to people is, look what I made. Look at this baby I made. She made this for me. This food right here, this exceptional tasting, scrumptious stuff, my baby made this. I'm just proud of her ability.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing though. That's lovely. I grew up taking care of my siblings as well, so I understand the dynamics. Just that I had many more siblings than just one to take care of.
I believe it. So tell me just a little bit about that with your sibling count. There's 11 of us in my family. So I
Yeah.
have five brothers, five
So
sisters.
so at the time I was the eldest at home. So I have a brother that follows me immediately, then a sister, and then a brother. So um, for a while, because between my sister and I, so my brother was a couple of years after me, and then my sister was about 11 years or so. So, and then I had a brother. There was a brother after her. So for a while, my mom did peddlering, and she also had well, I wouldn't say a 9 to 5. She went to work like 5 o'clock in the morning and came home about 5 o'clock in the evening. So, and then on the weekend, she would go to the market and sell stuff, right? So between that, there was really no time. So I was going to school, and then in the mornings after I graduated, and then later on I graduated high school. I didn't go to college, so I sat out a year and I was home. So I was basically like a housewife. So I did everything. I cooked, I washed, I cleaned, and I got everybody prepared and sent to school. I can't remember if I combed my sister's hair. I can't remember that part. But I was basically the person in charge because my mother was always gone. So I have that experience. And there was a point in time, it's in my book. I think you probably would have read that, where people thought that the two younger ones were my kids. Because they would go everywhere with me, and I was a church girl, so we would have an Adventist. So we would visit other churches on some Saturdays, like we have youth programs or things like that. So we would visit, and after a while, people thought they were my kids because I always had them. They were always tugging along. From they were small until they grew a little bigger, they could walk on their own and all of these things. So people thought they were actually mine. And the dynamic was at home was that it was as if I was their mother. Because as I said, my mother was either at work or looking for stuff to go to the market with or at the market. She was probably home the most on a Sunday, right? And even if she's probably going somewhere to figure something out about market for the next week. So I cooked, I washed, I cleaned, and I took care of them. So I had that experience, which made
Well,
me an early mother.
I believe they're grateful. I believe they are grateful because you stood in the gap. Their lives are better because you
I
challenge
was
yourself
there. Yeah,
in such a way as to make room for them. You help them, come to maturity.
yeah. I
That's vital.
agree.
That's so vital.
I
And,
agree.
and I
I
hope
agree.
that we grow and teach kids how to take care of each other in such a way that they can, care for each other going forward, because
Hmm.
that's a lot of what's going on right now, right?
Yeah,
People are lacking care for each other.
yeah.
And so
We have lost we've lost that ability to bridge the gap between, I don't know what it is. We're human beings, right? But for some strange reason, there's a gap there that we think that some of us are more human than others, or something. Something is missing in there. And but at the root of it is love, though. Essentially, that's what it is.
I
Yeah,
agree with you. It's the lack of love. It's the lack
yeah,
of love, because we're saying essentially that my humanity is somehow more important than your humanity.
yeah. And
I've
if yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
I've been reading about the global warming thing and how it's affecting the people in India.
Hmm.
They're 18% of the world's population, but they're only 3% of the polluters. And they are going through an epic heat wave right now. In prior
Hmm.
heat waves, they lost thousands of people. This time,
Wow.
less than 100, but the heat is so hot that they've cut school in half. They can only go to school in a half day. They're encouraged to stay inside in the afternoon because it's far too hot. The temperatures exceed 110 Fahrenheit daily. So people are perishing.
Mm.
But the world doesn't know about it because it's not covered here. Because we think because it's them over there, it's not a problem. But our working habits here have allowed that to happen to them. And we're a global family. So if they don't think of themselves in terms of being a global family, then they don't have a heart or a care for those people that are encountering this.
Yeah,
We're not taught that way. We're not brought up.
yeah, that is true. There's an imaginary line. There's
I,
an imaginary line that says, "Oh, you're Indian, you're African, you're European. You have your business, I have." But it's one ozone layer, really. So if it's going, it's gonna go for all of us.
and the one thing that they probably need is access to the wind, and the green, clean energy is what they need. Right now, that country relies on coal, and we know coal is very difficult. And it would just pollute their area. So if they started using as much coal as they truly needed, that would just black out the earth if they ever got a hold to all the coal that they needed to feed
Yeah,
their people.
because it's a lot of people down there in India.
Very highly populated, yes.
Yeah. If what is the impact that you want to make on the world?
The first thing that comes to my mind is kindness and civility.
Hmm.
Kindness and civility. I'm in technology. I teach over 250 software applications. I speak 8 languages. I want to be kind to people. Me knowing that makes me no better than them. That and $5 will get you Starbucks. It means nothing if you can't treat people kindly.
Yeah.
If you can't lean in and actually listen to people, allow them to have their say, allow them to speak, and listen with your heart more so than your mind or your ears. The best example I could give you of that is that you have encountered children, and when they're forming language when they're young, they'll be attempting to say something to you, and you
Right.
are listening with all your heart. So try to understand them.
Yeah.
We listening with all our heart. We want to know what they're saying. We don't quite get it. And then, finally I'd be dealing with a kid that go, whoa, whoa. I'm like, oh, you want water. Okay, you want water. I think you want water. I'm going to get you some water. Okay, since this is the case and you want water, I'm not going to make you say water. I understand your meaning. So I'm not going to insist that you say it the proper way. I think that they do that a lot in English and in the other languages. unless you pronounce it the right way or you say it grammatically, they'll be like, what you're saying is counterfeit. They won't try to grasp your meaning. I don't want to be that kind of person. I want to have kindness. I want to listen with grace. I want to listen with humility. I want to listen with the heart to understand. That's what I want from it. So that's the impact I'd like to make.
Beautiful. I love that. Kindness and civility. Kindness does go along.
It is. It does. And it's a form of love.
Yeah, it is. If you were to be able to sit in on your funeral, what would you like to hear people have to say about, at the funeral they talk things about the person. What would you like to hear?
I would like to hear that she loved her family and her mission, that she embraced her calling, that she was dedicated and fiercely committed to loving. That's what I'd like to hear. That and some bounce music from New Orleans. I want to hear that. And I want to hear Man of Constant Sorrow. I want them to play that song. And I'd like there to be laughing and happiness that I completed my journey.
I love that.
I don't want any crying. I don't want any crying at my funeral. I want rejoicing at my funeral. Because I believe that I'm going to get a reward when I die. I fully believe that I'm going to see Jesus or his successors in the signs. That's what I'm hoping when I die. I want to go meet the Lord. I believe I'll see him and or what I'm calling him, or just an experience with the divine. So I'm looking forward to that when I die. So my hope is that my going home is a happiness, and that I've used this body up and there's no more I can do. And that they'll be sad a little bit. Maybe they'll be sad, but I want there to be no tears. I want it to be happiness at that moment. Because I'm going on to get what I want. That's what I want. I be trying to tell people, I says, I can't deal in lies too much. Because first of all, my memory bad. Second of all, I had a stroke, so my memory bad. And the second thing is that I don't want to go to hell for lying. If I'm going to hell, it's going to be for something hellified. I don't want to go to hell for lying. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to waste my time with you with the lies.
Oh, God. It's impossible to be in your company and not smile. That much I can say for certain.
You meet people. Come on, Sharika. You meet people that's with the lies, huh? Have you not met them?
Yeah, I have. Absolutely. If you could leave a message with the people that will see this today about the pressures of life and how they can say no, stand up for themselves, what would you say?
I have a strategy for managing and dealing with the pressure. They're all ongoing, okay? And they have to do with the story that we're telling ourselves in our mind, and also what we're confronted with on a daily basis. So I have some notes, some little things that I would like to leave with them. You have the demands, the pressures, and the expectations. The ones that are external to you, and then the internal ones that you give yourself. So you have to be thinking about that when it's happening. Because in the moment, you could make a mistake out of anger. Because some things make you angry and frustrated in the pressure. And you have a lot to do, and I have a lot to do. We're totally tasked. So if I tell someone, I'll be like, well, you know what? I'm overtasked. I'm booked. I have a lot going on. Many times they do not respect it. They're like, I got a lot going on too. What makes you different? I don't want to hear that. I just want results.
Yeah.
So I have it, and it's say no to pressure. And here it spells pressure. Okay. The first thing, when you're being pressured, the P is for pause. Pause and protect yourself. Get ready. You're going to have to gird yourself because you're going into battle. So the P is for pause, to protect yourself. That's the first thing. The R is to reflect. So you're pausing, you're reflecting, and that's when your mind is saying, okay. The question you're asking yourself during the reflection, What am I supposed to learn from this moment I'm in right now? That's the reflection. Hold
Mm.
on. You're telling me something? I don't like your attitude, your tone, and your time, and I don't like your AT&T. I don't like your communication. I don't like how you're coming at me. So I'm going to reflect and understand what it is I must learn in that moment. So you got your P, you got your R. Your E is to express. And what you want to express are your expectations and the exceptions. Your expectations are centered around what it is you thought was going on. You want to express that if they'll allow you to. Some people, when you're explaining, that's another E, right? When you're explaining your expectations and your exceptions, sometimes they do not want to hear it. So when I'm in that E phase, I'll say, I said, would you like me to continue to talk? Or do you intend to interrupt me while I'm talking to you? Is it that you don't want to hear what I'm saying? Would you much rather have the floor? Because I'll yield the floor to you, but I want to let you know that you're interrupting me while we're talking. And then you wait. It works. But you want to do it in the moment.
Yeah.
So that's when you're expressing your expectations and exceptions. And the key thing around that is when you're talking to the person, I've had it happen. I saw someone treat someone ugly. I saw someone treat someone else unkind. After that call, I got on the phone with her and I says, this person rarely asks questions during class. She had enough bravery that day to raise her hand and say, I don't understand. I don't get it. Please help me. You were unkind to her and you made her feel small in how you addressed her. And that was not necessary. And as I was explaining it, she was interrupting me and cutting me off. And I said, see, you're doing it to me too right now while I'm talking to you. The same thing you're doing right now is what you did to that lady.
Yeah.
All right. The next one is the S in the pressure. The first S is to set boundaries. Set boundaries and be clear about them. I love setting boundaries because it allows people to know how to treat me.
Right.
The most recent boundary setting conversation I had to have was with my pastor. She's from Africa, no respecter of person or time. And I talked to her because I wanted to continue to work with her, but she never left enough runway to do work. Very last minute. So she'll call me on a Tuesday for something due Friday. Or she'll call me on a Tuesday and say it's due Saturday. And I'll be like, oh, no, ma'am. That's not my portion. I don't operate like that. You can't text it to me. You got to email it to me. Set boundaries. You got to email it to me. And I need more time than this time that you're giving me because it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And I love you in the Lord, but it ain't going to work. All right? That's how you set the boundary. The next thing is the S. The second S is to see the other side. Try to see where that person is coming from. Take their perspective. Try to see it from their way. And what I see, like from the other side of that, I'm like, the reason that you can't get anyone to do this is because you're last minute. And because you're last minute, that's why you're frustrated and sad and need me. You would need me if you gave a lot of runway. Anyone could do this. But because you come last minute, no one wishes to anymore for you.
Yeah.
They don't want to help you any longer. So what is my coaching moment going to be? Even when I'm talking to her, I'm like, okay, you recognize this is a boundary breaker. You're coming, you know this is not going to work because I've already set my boundary.
Yeah.
You see? That's very difficult, especially when you're speaking to someone in authority. They're the boss. So you do have to see it from their side. And someone said I'd broken a lot of deadlines and didn't keep my promises and I was missing deadlines. And I said, okay, I can see it your way. Okay, I'll do my best. Get you something tomorrow. Oh, and then she said she didn't trust what I was going to give the next day. And I said, okay, fine. You look at what I deliver, and if you still don't like it, then we go from there. You have to be able to receive feedback.
Yeah.
Negative and positive. Actually, I don't call it negative feedback. I call it developmental feedback. Because by them telling me the truth about myself, I cannot take offense
Yeah.
when they're telling me the truth. The other E is to empathize. Empathize. That is where the emotional intelligence comes in. There's a difference between empathy and sympathy. Sympathy means I'm sorry that happens to you. I'm glad it's not me. That's sympathy. Empathy says you've had something happen to you and you're sad right now. I believe you're sad. I'm going to respect that you're sad. I can't imagine how difficult it is for you. But if you want to talk about it, I'm here. And that's it. You just leave the door open for them, let them know. I recognize that you're having a difficult time. I see that. To simply say that can be good for somebody.
Yeah.
So that's empathize. And that'll relieve some of the pressure. Because when they're pressurizing you, somebody pressurizing them. By the time they come to you, I'll give you an example. A man is at work. The boss comes in, slams everything down, yells at him, gives him the business, talks stuff to him, says terrible things, slams the door, walks out. So the guy goes home, and when he gets home with his wife, they get into an argument. It doesn't go well. There's a bad transfer of energy there. That's terrible. And then, a little later on, little Johnny comes by, and the mom yells at him, gives him a hard time. Huh? And then he goes out, and he's really angry, and he sees the cat, and he kicks the cat.
Yeah.
Okay? So when they're transferring, that's the empathy. Because you're like, I don't know where your energy is coming from, but I don't want to get into that energy with you. You're not going to pressurize me. I know you're going through pressure, but I'm not going to let you pressurize me.
Yeah.
People will pressurize you.
Yeah. Very well.
The next R is to release the stress and reject. Reject the reality that they're attempting to project on you. Reject that. Because if you let someone pressurize you and you don't release the stress or reject what they're saying about you, then you're in agreement with it. So even though I didn't keep my promises and everything, and I didn't do what I was supposed to, I'm still not a bad person. And I did say I'm sorry, and I did say I'll do better. So now give me a chance. I don't have to believe what you're saying about me like that. I don't have to take it wholesale. So people will say accept reality, confront reality, and this sort of thing. You could do that, but to reject reality is where change comes in. So that's why I say hold up. Don't internalize it all. Eat the fish, spit out the bones.
Yeah.
And the last one in pressure is to evolve. And evolving, growing in the pressure takes a little time. No pressure, no diamonds. If you don't get pressurized, you're never going to shine.
Yeah.
So when they come at you with foolishness, bullcorn, haterism, whatever they got, the biggest thing with the pressure is to recognize what it's designed for. And it's to make you change and evolve in a way that's going to potentially benefit you. That's how you say no to the pressure. You use it to improve yourself.
Beautiful. Well, Dr. Bennett, this was a wonderful conversation, I must admit. It was a pleasure having you, and I learned some things. I took some notes. So thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you, everyone who hopped on. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the love. Thank you for watching. And if you are a follower of Dr. Bennett and not of me, I would love your support. I do this every Thursday. And if you follow me and not Dr. Bennett and you'd like to connect with her, please do go ahead and do so. And if you have not picked up a copy of my book as yet, it's called An Introduction to Freedom. There it goes. And it's available on Amazon. It's really a foundational tool to help you level up in mind, body, and spirit. So pick up a copy. I promise you won't regret it. You can ask Dr. Bennett.
I am a proud owner. I've gifted some, I've purchased some, and I'm using it as a textbook in my college.
Sweet, sweet.
That's
So
my plan.
awesome, awesome. So, Dr. Bennett, thank you once more for joining us. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to us talking and getting to know each other even more. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us this evening, and have a pleasant rest of Thursday. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, too.